Welcome to the 2019-2020 course registration for incoming 8th grade students. You should be a 7th grade student preparing to register for your 8th grade classes for next year. Before we move forward through the process, I want to make sure that each of you currently have the 8th grade course registration worksheet before you. If you are not in possession of this, have your teacher please stop this video and ask them to pass out the worksheet. Okay, so you should be in possession of the worksheet, and we're going to walk you through this. This will help in regards to your registration and course selections for 8th grade. What you're going to find is that the courses that are available in 8th grade are much more complex and much more diverse than it was when you went into 7th grade. So we want to make sure that you take your time, look through the course registration as well as the course catalog information, so that when you make your selections, these are final selections for your 8th grade school year. So first thing we're going to take a look at is kind of what you're going to be actually selecting. So as you look at the sheet or you look up at the screen at this time, notice the words that are in red. The courses that are in red are the only courses that you actually have the opportunity to select in this process. So you'll notice physical science is highlighted in red. That's going to only be offered to students who are currently in an honors math class. Now, there are some of you who are sitting there thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to try to test into an honors class. You don't have to worry about that. If you do test later on in May and you qualify to be in honors class, then we'll send you information regarding to get into a physical science class. So you won't be shut out of that. The rest of the classes you'll notice are your high school credit options. This is new for you because during 7th grade, you didn't have the opportunity to take any of high school credit options. So it's going to be very, very important that you carefully make your selections when you're doing this to make sure you don't overload and it's something that you can work with. So you're going to end up having to fill in all of these classes. And then the final piece, just like last year, is you're going to be ranking your academic enrichment courses from a 1 to 10 level, because there are 10 courses that are going to be available to you. So again, very quickly, you're going to be selecting your 8th grade physical science. You're also the 4 semester classes for high school credit, and then 2 semesters for your enrichment courses. So looking at your worksheet, the question number 1 that you need to respond to is, what math class are you currently in right now? What math course? If you are currently in regular math, which is your 703, put a check mark next to that box. Knowing that, you would move on to question number 3, basically skipping the question about physical science because you do not qualify for the physical science. If you are currently in honors math, which is 703A, Intro to Algebra, you check that box. If you currently are in Algebra 1, which is 2111, 2112, then you want to check the box next to that. Or if you are as far as honors geometry, which is 2221, 2222, then put a check next to that box. For those of you who checked for the regular math, just pause for a moment as we walk through question number 2 with those students that are in honors. Students who have honors math, you have the option to select either regular 8th grade science or the high school credit physical science, which you normally would take as a freshman. Understand that if you take and you select physical science, you will be required to take sprint science, which will fill 1 block of your academic enrichment selection. So you'll only get to pick 1 other class in your academic enrichment. So carefully think about that before you make the selection. After you've made that selection, now we're all back on the same track, all students. Take a look at question number 3, which is your music choice. In this situation, you can fall into many categories. Students who currently are in band or orchestra, you can continue to take band and orchestra next year. Understand, though, the difference will be that currently this year as a 7th grader, your band or orchestra class is opposite of a day 1, day 2 with PE. So it's every other day. Next year as an 8th grader, band and orchestra will be every single day all year long. So you need to understand that as you move forward with it. If you currently are in choir or you are interested in joining choir, you can also select that. And again, it will fill up 2 blocks. It'll be every day all year long. The thing is that If you're not interested in any of the music courses, then you need to select no music choice. By doing this, you still will be required to fill 4 blocks, 1 semester each, of high school credit classes, which we will look at in this next section. Students who took Intro to Spanish during 7th grade, you're going to have the opportunity to continue with your Spanish class into Spanish 1. Be cautious in this situation. If you currently are taking Spanish or Intro to Spanish, or you took it first semester, but it really wasn't something that you were that interested in, or you didn't find it as valuable, then I would advise you to not sign up for the Spanish 1 class and wait until you get to high school to fulfill your foreign language requirements and stuff. If you are interested in Spanish 1, then go ahead and make this selection. Here's the thing you want to be careful about. If you selected a music class like band, orchestra, or chorus, and you selected Spanish, you are finished as far as your high school credit classes. You will not be able to take any other high school credit classes from your electives because you have filled the space with Spanish and a music class. Those of you who didn't select the music class and selected Spanish, or didn't select the music class and didn't select Spanish, then you have opportunities in this next question to rank the high school credits that are available, high school credit electives. So in this situation, like I said, number 5, you're going to rank the 5 courses, 1 being the most important, the class you want to be in, all the way down to number 5, which is the least preference that you have. Again, if you selected a music course, you're going to be placed in 2 of the courses you were ranked. If you selected no music choice, you'll be placed in all 4 of the 5 that you ranked in this section of high school credit classes. So the high school credit options that are semester long are the following. You have physical education, which is a 0.25 credit, health, which is a 0.5 credit, digital image design, or DID, which is a half a credit, and then there's exploration in Art A and exploration in Art B, both a half credit. Again, you're going to rank these 1 to 5, 1 and B, the one that you want the most, all the way down to the 5th one, which is the least of your what you would like. Finally, once you've gone through that, you're going to have the opportunity for your academic enrichment courses. Here you have 10 courses that are available for your selection, and you're going to rank these as well, ranking them from 1 down to 10. Here's the reason why we ask you to rank both your high school elective classes as well as your academic enrichment classes. What ends up happening is sometimes people's schedules get very complex, and we are unable to schedule people into their first selection, and we have to then know what's your next selection in line. Sometimes we have to go as far as 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 down the list before we find a class that works in the schedule. So we want you to understand that up front, that you're not always going to get the classes that you select. You will get your academic classes, your math, science, language arts, and social studies classes. You will get scheduled in. You will get scheduled into your music courses if you select that. You will get scheduled into Spanish 1 if you select it, and you can take it because you took Intro to Spanish as a 7th grader. It comes down to the high school credit classes as well as the academic enrichments, where it gets a little more complicated, and sometimes we can't honor putting people in their first choices. So make sure you rank them. The other thing that you got to remember, just like I told you earlier, is that if you selected physical science, one of your academic enrichment courses is going to be filled with sprint science, which is a semester of the 8th grade science you're required to take. So you'll only get 1 of the classes that you ranked out of the 10. So here is the list of classes that you will see. The first couple is Speak Up Right Now, Mason in the Middle, Advanced Journalism, and Idea Launch are all part of the language arts area. Math That Matters is obviously through math. STEM is science. Project Citizen is part of the U.S. history. And then your research period, first semester and second semester, very similar to what you did this year for 7th grade. And finally, there is an empowerment class, but that is only available for females. So again, rank these from 1 to 10 in the electronic registration. When you get your electronic registration, the thing that you have to take a look at is what is it described as, the name of it? So when you see it, if it says 8th grade course registration, if that's all the description is, that means this is someone who is in no honors course and no Spanish course. The next line down is you see is 8th grade course registration Spanish. Those are the students who are in regular math, but did take intro to Spanish and have the opportunity to take Spanish as Spanish 1 in 8th grade. The third line down that says 8th grade course registration for Algebra 1AB, those are those students who is currently in honors math, but did not take Spanish. So they'll be able to have that selection of the physical science in their course registration. And then the final line here is for those students who were in honors and Spanish, and it would read the 8th grade course registration, Algebra 1AB and Spanish, and that'll give you all those options. Those students who are sitting here that are watching this that may currently be registered in Algebra 1 or are currently registered in, are currently taking geometry, you will see your next level of math in line. So if you are currently in Algebra 1, you will see geometry on your form. If you're currently in geometry, you'll see Algebra 2 on your form. If there's any questions, check with your counselor. All right, so here's what it's going to look like when you go on your electronic registration. The first thing you're going to see is the student information. Make sure you clearly put in your first, your last name. Your student ID is probably the most important thing. Make sure you put your 6-digit student ID in correctly. And then click in on the gender. The next step is just simply going to tell you what your academic courses are. If you are, or this is just for a standard student. The other one is if you are in honors math, this is what you're going to see. You'll see the top 3 are listing the math class, the language arts class, the US history, and then you'll be able to make your science selection, either regular 8th grade science or the physical science. The next section then will be on your music selection. And just like we talked about before, you have the 3 musics, band, orchestra, or chorus, or no music choice. So you'll make your selection that way. Then your 5th step is going to be ranking your high school electives if you have that option. So like I told you earlier, if you are a student who selects a music class and selects Spanish, you're not going to see this window. This window will not pop up, won't even give you the opportunity to select because you've already fulfilled all of your high school credit electives that will fill into your schedule. The final piece then, step 6, is your academic enrichment courses. You're going to rank all 10 of them from 1 to 10. Notice though, it gets a little difficult. You'll see at the bottom of this screen that there is a slide bar. Make sure you utilize the slide bar because if you look back up at the top, you'll notice you only see 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th selection, but you don't see 8th, 9th, and 10th selection. That's why you got to use the slide bar to slide it over so that you can see all of the selections. I'm going to walk you through it, and we're going to actually do one here later on so that you can see it in action. Finally, probably the most important thing is that the final window you see has the button, send me a copy of my response. You want to click this so you turn it on because if you submit and don't do that, you will not get a return email with all of your course selections and stuff. So make sure you click this on and then hit your submit button. So here are some examples of what you may see as schedules, and you can look through these. This is always going to vary depending on the student. And here's another example. And again, these all will vary depending on themselves. So here's a couple key pieces to remember. 1, registration email will be sent to your email account, not Schoology. So make sure you watch your email account. If it doesn't pop up in there, maybe check your spam, but in the past experience we've had, it has always come up on students' email. Use the course descriptions and worksheets to make sure you think carefully. This is going to be really important because you need to understand is that when we build the master schedule, we build the master schedule based on what you select now for courses, not when you call me back in the summer, but right now what you make is your selection. So take it time, be careful. Here's the other important thing that's good to know. Last year, a lot of you rushed in, like we turned on electronic registration, let's say at 5 p.m. 5:01 p.m., everybody was rushing in because they wanted to either take Spanish or they wanted to take coding and robotics. This year, as an 8th grader, You do not have to worry about that. None of the classes are going to be closed out based on that situation. Number one, Spanish, the only people that are going to see the Spanish option are those students who actually took Intro to Spanish, so we're not going to run out of space for those. The other side of it is we don't have a course like Coding Robotics that we're limited to the number of students that select. So you don't have to rush in. You're going to have from March 8th at 6 p.m. until March 15th at midnight, which is one full week to register. Just don't forget to register. It's more important to take the time. And then as well, look at the directions for course registration, which will be posted on Schoology as well. Here are the key dates, and make sure you have these down. So Friday, this coming Friday, March 8th, starting at 6 p.m., the electronic registration will be turned on. And then on Friday, March 15th, 1 week later, but at 11:59 p.m., the electronic registration will be turned off. If for some reason you are out of town or you forget, you can always work through your counselor, either Mrs. Long or Mrs. Norman. They will assist you and get your courses registered for you if you miss this window. So let us take a look at what this looks like for you. So let's say you get the email is going to come out to you today, which is Wednesday, March 6th. Sometime before the evening comes up, you're going to receive this email. So let's say you go in and the email is going to look very similar to this. So all of a sudden, let's say you try and go on to register either Wednesday, Thursday, or early Friday before 6 p.m. Here's what's going to happen. If you click on the button, this is the message you're going to get. It's going to say the form, and it's going to tell you which form you have. Won't accept responses until Friday, March 19th at 6 p.m. Keep this email link accessible until you have completed and submitted your course request. Do not delete this email or you won't be able to access the link to register for your 8th grade courses. So make sure you keep it on your email. So let's say it is now Friday, March 8th, and it's past 6 p.m. This is what it's going to look like when you register. So when you click on the form, the first thing you're going to see is it's going to ask you to check and make sure that that is your email address. If for some reason you're logged into somebody else's, make sure you switch out and get into your account. So I'm looking, I can see my email address here and everything, so I know it is. So then I click the next button. The next element that we see is obviously the student information. So you want to make sure you put your first name, your last name, your student ID, and then as well, your information as far as gender. We'll put this in here, acting as if I'm a student. Don't forget it's a 6 digits for your 6 digits for your ID, and then put in your gender. It won't allow you to click next unless you have all the fields filled in. The next piece here then you'll see is your academic courses and music selection. So this situation lists out the academic courses. Notice this is all regular, so there is no option here for science class. I'm going to be placed in the 8th grade science. But I do have the next part, which is the music selection. So in this situation, let's say I'm a band person, I'm going to continue with band. So I'm going to select band and then click next. By doing that then, it's going to tell me that I have to still fill in 2 courses. So on this selection, I have the 5 high school credit classes that are available, but I have to rank them from 1 to 5. So even if, let's say I just click on the 2 here, let's say those are the 2 that I want, but if I don't click on anything else and I try to hit next, it's not going to allow me to move on to the next until this is completely filled out. So I need to continue with my choices and putting in all the information, ranking them from 1 to 5. And notice once I hit it correctly, it clears out and I can hit the next. If I were to put this in the wrong spot and have 2 in the same column, it's not going to let me go on to next. So I have to have it correct before I can move on. So when I hit next, the final piece is then to take and rank from 1 to 10 the academic enrichment courses. Again, you will notice I only see choices 1st through barely 8th. So I have to go down to the bottom and I have to take this slide bar and move it so that I can see then 8th, 9th, and 10th selections. Again, you have to put this and rank it correctly. So it's really important to take the time on your worksheet and rank these so that all you have to do is convert this information. So if you're going through, make sure you rank them the way you would like them. And as I fill this in, I'm going to make sure that I have it correctly done. And getting down to the elements down here. And then I put these in correct. So once it's correct, notice the red information goes away and then allows you to go on to next. So now here is the piece that I talked about before. This is probably the most important element. It's clicking this button to send me a copy of the responses so that I get a confirmation email back with all of that. Before you hit submit, you can always go back and just review what you did. So if you hit the back button, it will maintain the selections you did all the way through. So I look here, and then if I go back again to the high school, let's say, you know what, I made a mistake here. You can go back and switch them while you're doing that. And you can go all the way back to the beginning and review everything you did. So by the time you can go back to your next and go through all of this, and once you get to the last segment, then you can go ahead again, make sure you click that send me a copy response and then hit your submit. Keep in mind, you can only do one submission. It's only going to allow you to do one entrance of a course registration. You can't go back and try to re-register, because if you do, this is what's going to happen. If I click out on that thing again, now that I've registered, I click on it, it's going to say, you've already responded. So that's the response you're going to get. All right, so you have all of the directions, you have all the information. I can't say enough to take the time and look through all the course descriptions, have conversation with mom and dad, do all of this before you go online after Friday at 6 p.m. and do your registration and submit. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, always stop by and see your counselor, either Mrs. Long or Mrs. Norman. Thank you.